If you make $32,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of wage earners on earth. 50% of the people on earth live on less than $1 a day. And I'm sitting there like, one girl might not call me back immediately, or it might not go perfectly well on a date, and I'm like sad about it. And I just take for granted all these people who live on less than $5 a day. And I'm sitting there complaining about nonsense. I can eat anything I want. I can pretty much go anywhere I want. I'm gonna tell you, the real trick for me to get every single thing I wanted in my life was because of my networks. It was because of the people that I helped and were willing to help me. That's absolutely the reason I was able to accomplish so many things. If you spend your whole life doing things for others and asking for nothing in return, you are going to have the easiest life imaginable. You are not going to believe how easy your life turns into, how fulfilling your life is. What's going on, guys? It's Michael Sartain here. I'm out here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'm still out here for Swimsuit USA. And I wanted to make a video because it's really interesting. If you guys have been to Mexico before, you know what it's like. Like, the sunsets are different here. It's just like there's a little bit of a yellowness to it, maybe because all the humidity or whatever it is, but it's just such a beautiful country. But some of the things that I notice is, there is still a lot of poverty here, especially compared to, what we deal with in the United States. And I wanted to make this video about having some gratitude about the life situation that you guys lived. And I think a lot of people don't recognize like how good you have it. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple of ideas, a couple of pieces of understanding, a couple of statistics that you can share with your friends, just in case they don't understand how good their life is. So first off, this is the one that kind of blows me away. If you make $32,000 a year, US, you are one of the top 1% wage earners on planet Earth. $32,000 a year. Some of you guys are making $32,000 a year out of high school, okay? That's the first one that's crazy. Here's another fact that I thought was just absolutely mind-numbing. Before the year 1850, 50% of the Earth's population died before the age of 5. Meaning that, like, you had infant mortality, or children dying, stillborn, et cetera, like that. Because back then we didn't have antibiotics, and it's something that we just absolutely take for granted right now. We don't care at all about these things, these modern necessities that we have. Like, when you consider, I'm just sitting here walking around, when you consider like 3 incredible necessities that we take for granted every day, I'll give you 3 big ones. Ready? Antibiotics, air conditioning, and the internet. You guys probably don't recognize how lucky you have it. The fact that those things, in fact, you take those things for granted. You'll go to some third world country, you'll go to some other country, and your internet doesn't work fast, and you're just like screaming, right? The other one is like commercial flight, commercial airline travel. The idea that when you consider your ancestors would probably be born and die in the same time zone, and you can be on a lower middle class salary, and you can afford a trip to Mexico, South America pretty easily. You can afford a trip to maybe go to Alaska, maybe go to Europe. I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's not super expensive, and it's something that you can definitely do in your lifetime, whereas your ancestors had no ability to do that. And you have no gratitude for that. Like, you just totally take it for granted. I'll tell you another thing. When you consider the child mortality rate, or the birth mortality rate of women, was probably at certain points in history over 10%, maybe as high as 25% in certain regions. So just imagine you have a wife, and she gets pregnant, and she knows that as soon as she gets pregnant, she has a 1 in 4 chance of dying. Imagine that. You don't have the infant mortality rate, or the birth mortality rate, I think now is like below 1%. But we take this kind of stuff for granted. We don't think about it. One of the best books I've ever read on this, there's 2 great books on it. One of them is called Enlightenment Now by Steven Pinker. I highly recommend you guys all pick that up. It's such a tremendous book, which goes over the reality of the situation. Fewer people are sexually assaulted today than ever before at any time in history. The world is less violent. I know what's going on in Israel. I know what's going on in Ukraine. The world is actually significantly less violent than almost any point in history. When you consider time periods living in Asia during the time period in the 15th century when Genghis Khan was alive, and something like 10% of the population there was murdered by him. And I believe it's something like 1.5% of all Asian men have his Y chromosome, like Genghis Khan's chromosome. Just imagine how insane that is. Imagine you're just sitting there with your wife and kids, and you can see the Mongol horde, maybe a mile or 2 down the way. You know, you're up on top of a hill and you just know, like, there's literally you and everyone you know is about to be killed and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You guys don't think about this. You don't think about this, the way people lived before you and how incredibly grateful you should be for every single thing that you have, man. I know we talk about this a lot of times and you know, it's controversial, but if you had any idea how much worse the world would be without antibiotics, and antibiotics, we didn't even have them until, like, for the general public until the 1940s, maybe the, you know, as late 1930s, 1940s. When you look at all the people that died from disease in World War I compared to World War II, the majority of the deaths from World War I were from diseases that could have been preventable. When you think about the wealthiest man in history, probably in the 1560s was, in the entire world, was probably Henry VIII. And Henry VIII died of gout, which is something that was easily been treatable today. You just realize all these things. Here's another one. Ready? This is gonna blow your mind. Stop, tell your friends this. When you see this video, text them because they're not gonna believe this. There's a point in history before antibiotics where syphilis had a 99% mortality rate. Let me say that one more time. There's a point in history before antibiotics where syphilis had a 99% mortality rate. Do you guys understand how fucking crazy that is? Well, like that, these numbers are absolutely wild. And you just take every single one of these things for granted because you have your high-speed internet, and if it ever gets disrupted for a few minutes, you start screaming and kicking the cable box and making a bunch of noises, all these kind of things. I just don't think you guys understand how fortunate we are. When you think about some of the things that we argue about, right? We have discussions about divorce, we have discussions about LGBT ideas, we have discussions about inflation. We have all these discussions, but part of the reason why we're even allowed to have these discussions is because violent men who came before us were willing to chisel out this cubbyhole of safetyness for us to have these conversations. And a lot of these conversations they would think are ridiculous. The reality of the situation is every day we get further and further away from a survival scenario. That is the truth. And as we get further from a survival scenario, we become, I don't know if weaker is the right term, maybe that is the right term. We definitely become softer, and we definitely become more complacent. And we definitely become more entitled the further and further away we get from a survival scenario. And by the way, I'm not saying we go back to a survival scenario, that would suck. But the further we get away from a survival scenario, the more you're going to see situations like you see now where women say, and they say this rightfully or wrongfully, I don't need a man. Now, of course, we all proximately, so you have a proximate cause and an ultimate cause. Proximately, yeah, you're right, maybe she doesn't need a man. She could buy a gun, live in a nice area, you know, a gated community. In that case, she doesn't need a man. But ultimately, we all need men because men take care of the infrastructure. By the way, I'll show you this real quick. There's like a Marine Corps outpost right here. There's some Marines getting into their truck. One interesting difference between the United States and a lot of these Latin American countries is we have a separation between our military and our federal law enforcement, whereas a lot of these countries don't. Like basically, you know, when they say the federales, like we don't have anything, like the federales would be the equivalent of our FBI, but they don't have, like our military can't do engagements within our borders. Legally, they cannot do that unless the governor or the president of the United States declares an insurrection. In countries like Pakistan or Colombia or Mexico, it's not like that. Like the army actually has a lot of leeway inside the country. It's very different here. There's not quite the same separation, whereas in the United States, we have 50 independent states that have different laws. Certain things you can do in one state, you can't do in another. They don't really have the same level of independence between the states here in these Latin American countries like we do in the United States. But anyway, when you think about how grateful you can be, guys, listen, if you're watching this right now and you're in a country where you just speak English and you've got internet, holy shit, you're lucky. Holy shit, you're lucky. I got another one for you guys. Ready? I don't know if this one's still true, but I believe this is still true. 50% of the Earth's population right now lives on less than $5 a day. Hello. Do you guys remember what I said before? If you make $32,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of wage earners on Earth. 50% of the people on Earth live on less than $1 a day. Let me see if I can sneak in here. Oh, there's some dogs. Oh, it's a little pier. Check this out, it's a little pier back here. I'm gonna go check that out. You take your safety for granted. You take the fact that you don't have to deal with levels of hyperinflation. Go look up the Weimar Republic in Germany between World War I and World War II. Like when it was 1 billion Deutschmark for a piece of bread, a loaf of bread. Go look that up. That's not an exaggeration. Look at all these things. Like Think about the fact that you live in a country, especially if you're an American, Australian, a Canadian, or a Brit, you live in a country that most likely, probably for the next few centuries, it's very unlikely that you're gonna get invaded by another country that doesn't speak the same language as you. Imagine living in a world where your country gets invaded by another country where they don't speak the same language as you. Imagine that. Imagine being French and being invaded by the Germans, something like that. The fact that that's never probably going to happen to you, and you probably take it completely for granted and don't care at all. It's funny. I wonder if this is copyrighted YouTube music right here. That's pretty funny. I wonder if YouTube has any idea. Oh man, I don't know how people deal with this humidity. It's crazy out here. Anyway, so I'm sitting here walking around in Puerto Vallarta. This is actually called Punta Mita. That's actually the city that I'm in right now. They got a fire going out here. There's a bunch of people surfing. A bunch of the tourists are out here surfing. This looks pretty cool. I did some of the coolest zip lining I've ever seen in my life. They have a bunch of cool dolphin shows, stuff like that. But just the gratitude that you have for the fact that you just can live a comfortable life. And a lot of you guys are like so caught up in this idea of being rich. I think every single one of you should take the opportunity at some point in your life to go volunteer. And I don't just mean volunteering in the United States at a soup kitchen, in a place like Managua. Horrible place where people actually live in a trash dump. I'm not kidding, look it up. Look at Managua, look up, there's a trash dump. All these people just looks like they just got married or something. Oh, interesting. Man, this is like the best light. This is the best light for shooting photos, holy crap. I see why everybody comes down here to Mexico. It's like this combination of humidity and just like this perfect crystal air. Like it's just, oh man, it's so beautiful. And the thing is like, I've probably been to Mexico 20 or 30 times. My family's Colombian, actually. I mean, this is just, oh my gosh, man. How about this? How about the fact you take for granted the fact that you live on planet Earth at such an easy time in comparison to your ancestors? And how about the fact, how incredible is it that you live on a planet that's this beautiful? Man, take some time, man. Watch some David Attenborough, Blue Planet specials, just so you can see how beautiful the world that you live in is. And man, I'm just like, I know a lot of people come out here, they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta meditate and talk about gratitude and get one with my chakras and my spirit. I'm not here about all that yah-yah, woo-woo bullshit. That is not what I'm sitting here talking about. I'm talking about legitimately being grateful for the fact that you are one of the 110 billion humans who have ever lived on this planet, and you get to look at a sunset like this. You get to look at a sunset like this right here. How incredible is that? And like how fortunate you are to be able to do something like that. I know a lot of people who watch this channel, this wasn't the video that you were expecting, but man, this might have been the video that you needed. So listen, man, do not get into a situation where you take for granted all these wonderful things that you have in your life, man. I sit here sometimes and I think about struggles that I have with my business. I think about the fact that like I got picked on a lot in high school. I think about the fact that like I was always, throughout my life, I've always been ashamed of, like, I've always never wanted to take my shirt off just because I have these really narrow shoulders and I got these big old wide hips from my family, my Colombian family. I've just never wanted to, man. My collarbones, if you guys ever noticed, my collarbones basically don't exist. My chest it just like sinks into my neck here and I got these really narrow shoulders. And I've never wanted to take my shirt off in public. And I just think about the fact, well, you know, I have a business that's doing 8 figures, but I have a friend of mine, he's got a business that's doing 9 figures. So like what I'm doing isn't shit. I think about the fact that like I've got to date some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. On several occasions, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life became my girlfriend. And I'm sitting there like one girl might not call me back immediately, or you know, it might not go perfectly well on a date, and I'm like sad about it. And I just take for granted all these people who live on less than $5 a day. And I'm sitting there complaining about nonsense. I can eat anything I want. I can pretty much go anywhere I want. You know, and you don't even have to be that successful to be able to do these things. Now, here's the other thing. Let's take it another step forward. You right now who are listening to this, if you wanted to, you could take the time to jump on the internet, buy a camera. This camera I got in my hand is like $550. It's a DJI Osmo. You could take the time to buy a camera, try to build a brand, make videos every day, build that brand up to sell a product, give away a bunch of free value, do this for a year or two until you really take, maybe around 2 years, you'll probably take off on YouTube, start getting a little bit of traction. Post some shorts, post some TikTok reels, post some TikToks, post some reels, post some shorts, post some clips on even Twitter, different places. You know, build a little bit of a brand, and then after you build the brand, sell a product to 1% of your audience. Sell a product to 1% of your audience. You do that, you can be fantastically wealthy. And you never even have to leave your house half the time. You never even have to leave the comfort of your bed. Look at my man, one of my good buddies, Orion Taraban. He's built an incredible brand, and he shoots from his house every day. Look at my man, Casey Zander. Casey, like literally, he's still shooting on the same $500 camera he started on years ago. He hasn't upgraded his audio or his video setup at all. It's unbelievable. This is probably like the 9th or 10th camera I've gotten since, you know, I started my YouTube channel. So consider that you have the ability to do that. If you wanted to right now, you could become a phlebotomist and make a pretty decent living. If you wanted to right now, you could start doing Amazon FBA. If you wanted to right now, you might be able to start selling solar. If you wanted to right now, you could train yourself to become an excellent copywriter. If you wanted to right now, you could train yourself to code or train yourself to use artificial intelligence to code for you to build funnels for other people. If you wanted to right now, you could become an affiliate. If you wanted to right now, you could become a high-ticket salesperson. You could become a high-ticket sales trainer. If you wanted to right now, one of the things I've always wanted to do, I wanted to be a voice actor. And the other thing, one of my other dreams, and I'm still not giving up on this dream, I've always wanted to be a ring announcer. But like the thing is, I have enough freedom in my life because of the life I've built and because of the world I live in to where I could do all those things if I really wanted to. How great is that? Yo, I never take my life for granted. I want you to think about this. One of my favorite people watching growing up was Owen Cook, and he's one of my best friends. One of my favorite authors over the last decade was Rollo Tomasi, and now he and I have a show together. Like it's mind-blowing. You know, the reality that you can live in if you really want to. If you really want to create this reality for yourself. Now, here's how you do it, though. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to meditate. You can meditate. Meditation is good. I'm not going to sit there and tell you that's bad. I don't even want to move. This scene is so beautiful. I don't even want to move from here. I'm going to tell you the real trick for me to get every single thing I wanted in my life was because of my networks. It was because of the people that I helped and were willing to help me. That's absolutely the reason I was able to accomplish so many things. I've been on beaches just like this. You've seen me on them before in Jamaica with Paradise Challenge. And right here with Swimsuit USA. I've been at parties, incredible parties with Babes in Toyland, Teatro, Playboy, Maxim, those different places. And in those different places, I met some incredible people and made some incredible connections and done some incredible business. I love the fact that I can call Justin Waller a friend and I can help Justin Waller make money. Both of those things are true. Or the same thing with Sterling Cooper. I love the fact that if Greg O'Gallagher or Brandon Carter needed something, they would hit me up in 2 seconds and I'd be down to help them. I love that. I love that every once in a while, my man Andrew over in Romania, we don't want the algorithm coming after us. My man Andrew over in Romania, if he hits me up for something, I'm gonna help him out in 2 seconds. It's not even a thing. And I think it's a privilege, and I'm grateful for the fact that not only one, would they call on me, but two, that I could help them at any time. It's a privilege for me to help my friends. That is not entitlement. That's actually living with gratitude. Taking it as a piece of being grateful for the fact that you actually get to help other people, that you get to go to work. Man, it's so much better of a way to live life rather than, you know, I used to be not exactly a day trader, but when I was a fund manager, I used to manage, I was a portfolio manager, and I did short stock options. In order for me to win, somebody else had to lose. That's the reality of it. And I'm not saying that's a bad line of work. I actually really love doing that for a job. I still do it a little bit, just not to the same extent. But when you consider that having a job where in order for you to win, somebody has to lose, how much better would it be to have a job where you have incredible people in your life and you help them win and they just can't wait to help you win? I love the fact not only that Dan Fleischman will help me with pretty much, if I ask Dan to hook me up with somebody, he'll like hook me up with a podcast guest, he'll do it in 2 seconds. But I also love the fact that I have enough resources that I can help Dan whenever he wants as well. I love the fact that I can do that, you know what I'm saying? I love the fact that if I were to ask Wes Watson for advice on like how he's able to, you know, pull in $3-4 million a month, Wes would just sit down and break it down to me. because he's my boy. Like, that's the thing that I just love about this. And by the way, here's the other ironic thing. I love the fact that I'm friends with Andrew Wilson as well. And if I hit up Andrew and I want to talk to Andrew about some technical issues or whatever, my man Jim Jackson, I don't know if you guys know Jim Jackson, he played for 14 NBA teams. He just started his new podcast. You should check it out. He's already had Charles Barkley on there. Jim, I've talked to him about maybe coming on his show, but like, I'm gonna help Jim every single way I can, whether or not I go on his show. I'm gonna help him if he asks me for audio equipment, video equipment. Like, by the way, I recommend for any of you guys getting into podcasting, I highly recommend Riverside FM. I really do recommend it over trying to do Zoom calls. That's just that's a piece of free game right there. Riverside FM will let you record on both ends in 4K. It's a cheat code. So, man, look at all these people out here. I don't know if you can see. It's in 4K right here, but there's all these people like out here wakeboarding and surfing out on the beach. Guys, I don't know anything about this beach. I really don't even know where I am. I just started walking and just ended up on this random beach in Mexico. There's this beautiful dog right here. Let me see if I can pull this guy up. What's up, buddy? Can you see the dog? Yep. Roof, roof. Oh, there's two of them. They're playing with each other. I love the fact that I live in a world where I actually get, I've talked to you guys about this before. I think one of the worst things about our society is how we treat our animals. There's 70 million homeless dogs and cats in this world. I love the fact that I can rescue some of them. I love the fact that I live a life where I can get together 200 or 300 incredibly beautiful women, and they work with me together in order to raise money, in order to rescue animals, to raise money for children that are homeless. We're doing that on December 5th with the Midnight Mission and Babies in Toyland. To raise money for troops overseas, to raise money to help cure cancer, to raise money for all these different things. I get to do that. Can you imagine all the other people? Like, I get to bring together a bunch of beautiful women and they come with me to raise money to help heal some of these ills in the world, we're doing one for animal rescue in March. We do one for troops overseas in July. We are doing one for domestic abuse next year. There's a new community center opening up in Las Vegas, and I'm gonna help open with that. And man, I'm just so lucky that I get to do that. And by the way, the guy who I'm doing it with, I might be spilling the beans here, but he's the announcer for the Raiders and the announcer for the Golden Knights. He's starting a community center. I'm gonna try to help him out with it. But like, the thing is, it's a privilege for me because he didn't even have to ask twice. He just mentioned he needs some help, and I jumped at the opportunity. Because the thing is, what you guys are really gonna find out, and I know this is the cheesy answer that a lot of you don't wanna hear, but getting to help other people is the best, bro. It's like, when you just spend your entire life trying to do as much as you can for other people and asking for nothing in return, your life is so easy. Bro, that's the cheat code. That's what you waited 20 minutes listening to this video. You wanted the ultimate piece of advice, this is it. When you spend your entire life helping other people and asking for nothing in return, bro, it is a cheat code. You get invited to everything. The guys that you see that are like not that good looking, who are dating a perfect 10, they're the guys I just mentioned. They help people and ask for nothing in return. And it gets them in better connections. It gets them invited to better events. They're hooked up with more upstanding, high status people. That's the way it works. And so like, why can't you do that? Why don't you just say, why not me? You see all the things that I've done in my life, and some of you admire them, and I appreciate that you do. But the thing I would really like for you to admire is to take a second and look at my clients and read some of their testimonials and watch some of their video testimonials and check out some of their Instagrams and just see, like, ask yourself, right now, probably here in the next week, coming up on Halloween, we're gonna cross 3,000 people who have gone through Men of Action. You wanna talk about another thing I'm grateful for? It's the fact that I get to do something I love for a living. I get to affect change in other people's lives. And I get to do it, and I do it in a way that I love doing it. I get to be myself on camera whenever we do those group calls. You guys know about the group call. Those of you in MOA, you know about the group calls on Tuesday and on Thursday and how incredible they are. How much I want to get off my chest and how much I want to help these guys. And if you ever get the opportunity to be a coach, like I've been for the last, 2008, so this would be 16 years, and you have somebody coming up to you and telling you that their life has changed, and it's because of what they learned from you, bro, it'll never get old. It'll never get old. Just the gratitude that you can have, The fact that you belong to a species, human beings, where you can pass down tradition from one person to another and you can learn so much. The fact that you can do that, man, you should be so incredibly grateful. Man, I don't even want to leave this beach. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna keep walking. I don't even want to leave this beach. This beach is incredible. The fact that you get to do that. Remember my man Ernie Johnson, I've got to meet Ernie Johnson twice. He's from inside the NBA. It's one of my favorite broadcasters. He says, I don't get to, I got to. No, I'm sorry, he says, I don't got to, I get to. I don't gotta go to work, I get to go to work. How incredible is that, man? I would only hope for you guys this. Ready? A couple things. Number one, that you guys get at some point in your life the ability to start a business, and in that business, you do something you love, and the harder you work, the more money you make. I know that sounds like a very, very small, subtle statement, but the more you work or the harder you work, the more money you make. Think about being rewarded by doing something you love, and the more you do of the thing you love, the more money you make. Bro, every day you wake up and it's just like, you just got a fire in your ass and just ready to go. It's unbelievable. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to hope for you is that you understand this thing that I tried to mention to you before. If you spend your whole life doing things for others and asking for nothing in return, you are going to have the easiest life imaginable. You are not going to believe how easy your life turns into, how fulfilling your life is. Okay? And number three, if all you do is create a life where when you're around other people, you're just trying to solve problems for them, and then maybe you even build a brand, and in your brand, all you do is just give out free advice, give out free value as much as you can, maybe for a year or two, and all you do is sell a product to 1 or 2% of your following, you will be fantastically wealthy. And you'll have the other two things that I just mentioned as well. That's the best thing that I can hope for you in the entire world. And then at the same time, while you get to do things like enjoy the fact that you live in a world with air conditioning, you live in a world with antibiotics, you live in a world with plane travel, you live in a world with the internet, have gratitude for the situation that you live in. Man, I'm so grateful that I get to work with people that I really, really enjoy working with. I'm so grateful that I have so many amazing female friends who will come support any charity I ask them to support. I feel so grateful for the fact that the 3 biggest bikini series on planet Earth have asked me to be their host. I feel so grateful for the fact that some of my biggest idols, as far as content creation and authors are concerned, have become friends of mine. And I'm so grateful for the fact that I haven't even gotten anywhere near peaking. And I was able to do all this. And bro, I'm 47 years old and I don't feel a fucking day over 21. So if this is the life you want as well, I'll tell you right now, this is what I've been trying to help you guys understand. And by the way, this video is going to come to as a surprise to some of you guys who are used to me talking about intersexual dynamics. For those of the guys who are in Men of Action, they're used to this. They hear me talk about this all the time because I'm going to give you guys a little secret that my sales team is going to hate that I'm telling you right now. We use the girls to get you into MOA, but once you're into MOA, we teach you about gratitude, leadership, communication, networking. We also teach you about dating. We teach you about fitness, finance, business, entrepreneurship, critical thinking, evolutionary psychology, event planning. Those are the things we specialize in the program. And here's the crazy part. When you do all the things that I just mentioned, you have gratitude, present moment awareness, you come to the realization that you and everyone you know are going to die, and that liberates you. When you create value for other people and spend all your time just trying to solve problems for other people, in the end, here's the ultimate secret. The woman of your dreams, she shows up. But not only does she show up, 6 other women who are the women of your dreams show up at the same time, and they all start fighting for your attention. And that's the truth. Guys, I'm so grateful I got to walk with you guys and you got to see me out here on this beach. Again, I have no idea where I am at this point. I don't even think I think I'm in Jalisco. I'm not sure. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making a lot more stuff like this. I'm in love with this Osmo, man. I'm in love with the audio that you get on this thing and the fact that I can just interview people while walking up and down the street. Another thing to be grateful for, man. And by the way, shout out to Owen Cook and Ty Lopez for turning me onto this thing. Yeah, another thing, Ty Lopez is a buddy of mine. I got to speak at his seminar a couple weeks ago, man. I mean, the honor of Ty Lopez asking me to speak was incredible. So, man, I want to say thank you once again. Make sure you subscribe. I got a lot more great content coming like this, and I'll see you in the next video.